What is up, YouTube? Today we're going to be going over the top 3 gods in each role that you should be playing in ranked, as well as their builds. Comfortability is really important, especially at lower levels of play, so if you're having success with a certain god and they're not on this list, all good, keep doing your thing. And like I said, it's going to be 3 gods and their builds per role. I don't want this video to be an hour long, so I'm going to try to briefly explain why I think they're good, why they're meta, maybe some recent buffs / nerfs, and sort of why, like, the logic behind building the items that we're building. That's really all there is to it. There's still no god builder on the main menu in Smite 2, so we're just going to be going into jungle practice when we talk about each god, showing you their build, and try and get you guys all on the same page. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. We're going to start with solo lane. First god I want to talk about in solo is Hades. This character is still very, very good. Part of the reason I think he's so good is because his items actually get better as the game goes on, which is not really something you can say with other solo laners or as other tanks, really. So, starter item, either go Conduit or go Boombas. I like both. I've been going Boombas a lot when I play Hades in mid, and I think that upgrade is really strong for him late game. But if you're not comfortable with that in lane because it's less clear, then just go the Conduit. And then the full build is going to be something along the lines of Book of Thoth, Poly, into Spear of Deso, into, you want to basically have an Obsidian or a Totem of Death plus a Ratatouille in every single intelligence-based build. So probably a Ratatouille, Obsidian, and then kind of whatever you need from there. A lot of games you want to be going Helm of Darkness so you can get some easy initiations in through using that Invis. But you can also go something else. You can maybe forego, if you don't really need this pen, say they're not really that tanky. Some people are playing a lot of squishies right now in ranked. You can maybe forego the Obsidian and get something else, maybe something a little bit more damage without having that pen. Maybe a little bit of CDR if you want that. Even a Chronos pen isn't bad to slam later on in the build. So yeah, that's basically what you want to be doing on Hades. You can replace the Conduit with Boombas, like I said, and you'll be feeling pretty good. Hades is really strong right now. Second god I want to talk about is Amaterasu with her aspect. Make sure you guys are picking her aspect when you're selecting her right now. It has made her very, very strong, especially with this auto attack build that I'm about to show you. Ama's one of these characters you don't need to go blink on. You can get, you can get beads. Sometimes you can get a Sunder, a Shell. But, it's really up to you. A lot of times you just slam a beads. It'll help you chase people down. We're going to be starting Death Soul. Usually just getting a tier 1 axe because you have actually a lot of kill potential early game. I'm not going to show you guys the starting build for every single character because it just kind of gets a little bit redundant. And it's not that big of a deal. But we are going to be rushing kin size on Ama. This gives you so much damage in the early game. You're going to run people down when you have the aspect selected, of course, because that haste and fatalis and the extra auto attack damage from the 1 just give you so much early game kill potential and W key potential. So we're going to be going kins, a lot of damage, straight into a berserker, so we get a little bit of tankiness, right into a Braggy's Harp for the same reason. A lot of early game damage gives you a lot of PvE potential because it procs on towers and everything else, minions, everything. Into some more tankiness at this point. It kind of depends on what we're against, but I like to slam a Void Shield here. It gives you a lot of damage. Now we have to worry about their magical damage most of the time, so we're going to have to get a magical defense item here. This kind of up to you and kind of depends on the game. If you didn't go that beads as your relic, you could slam a Talisman of Purification. Also helps out your team. Phoenix Feather is also pretty decent right now. You could also just slam a Shogun's, more auto attack speed, of course. And then usually I like to round out the build with Binding, procs on your ult, procs on your silence from your 3, yada, yada, yada. And then, of course, we're going to upgrade to Death Embrace late game. But yeah, she's super strong right now with her aspect. You should be able to run people down, get a lot of early game kills, and snowball with her. So that's why I have her as the number 2 solo. All right, and for number 3, I was kind of torn between Chalk or Hercules here. I'm actually going to throw Herc in at number 3 because I think he's really good right now, and he kind of hasn't been meta for a lot of Smite 2. But I think he's pretty strong, and he's one of the few characters right now that I think you can actually feel pretty tanky on while also being threatening, just because of how his 3 works, his passive, and sort of the build that you can go on him that I think is really strong. So I'm trying to show you that today. He's another character you don't necessarily need blink on, but I still like to go it. Lots of outplay potential there. And of course you can still do the 2 blink mechanic where they go flying. So yeah, that's something you can do. But as far as the build goes, we're playing him in solo lane. I think he's maybe even better in the jungle, but he's still very, very good in solo in my opinion. I like to go Bluestone, obviously 3 damaging abilities, and they're all low cooldowns. At least his 2 and 1 are, so you're going to be proccing that very often. So this is where things get a little bit different as far as traditional builds go. We're going to be rushing a damage item first because we're already tanky enough with our passive and our 3 and our healing. And this is where we can be a little bit threatening while also being tanky enough. So you have a few options here. You can either go Pendulum Blade, Tekko Kagi, which gives you movement speed, or Jotuns. All 3 of these will be giving you cooldown, which is essential to the build and essential to making Herc work right now. Jotun's upside is that it has it's pretty cheap. And then Tekko and Pendulum are a little bit more expensive, but a little bit better payoff for as far as solo lane goes. I think Jotun's is way better in the jungle than both these items, to be honest. But as far as solo lane goes, I think you should be going one of these just because it's better payoff for solo lane specifically. Teko if you want movement speed, and Pendulum if you want cooldowns. Because the passive on this is super strong on Hercules because it combos really well with his passive, which when he transforms, he gets reduced cooldowns. So if you throw a Pendulum Blade in there, you can 2-1 like 3 times in like 10 seconds. It's pretty insane. So yeah, I like to go Pendulum. A lot of people like to go Pendulum right now on him. Cooldown is very crucial to his kit, in my opinion. So I like to go something like a Glad Shield second, give you a little bit more damage as well. You could also consider going Stampede here or Breastplate. All really work. Stampede doesn't have cooldown, but it's also really good for the movement speed to chase people down, which is really good on Hercules. Into a Binding, into a magical defense item. Screeching is still okay. You can go that if you want. I like to go Oni Hunters now. They nerf Screeching quite a bit, so it's more situational when you want to build that. You could also go Talisman here since you're not going to have beads built if you're going Blink, so that's something you consider. Also really strong on Hercules because there's a lot of, things that counter him. He has, like cripples. His dash is he's very reliant on his dash. So if they have cripples or CC to interrupt it, then, having beads would be good to chase people down. For the same reason you kind of do it on Amma. And then into a Void Shield, so we get even more damage. And then last item, a little bit more situational. You can go a full tank item here, such as a Hussar's Wings. They did nerf it. It's 700 more gold, but it's still very strong on Hercules because perma slow immunity on him is pretty insane. You go a Spirit Robe, or they just added Mantle of Discord, and I think that's also pretty strong. And of course, it gives you cooldown as well. So this would be your full build. We have 95 strength, and of course, Bluestone upgrade is going to make that even better. Let's see here if I can build that. Boom. We have 110 strength, and we get our passive. We're going to have even more strength. You actually do enough damage to kind of threaten people in just one round of your kit, and you'll be feeling pretty good with this build. But you can also build a lot of different items on Herc and make him work. Not just the first item when I'm talking about Pendulum and Teko and Jotuns, but a lot of these other items. You can throw a Stampede in there. You can throw a Breastplate. Can't really go wrong. I just highly recommend that you at some point have a Binding and a Void Shield in your build because you're proccing Binding on every single 2-1 that you hit. And of course, Void Shield, 15% pen. Really, really strong. So yep, that's Hercules at number 3. And again, you can play Chalk if you want. He's kind of got the same build he's always got, so I'm not going to go over that. But yeah, those are our 3 solo laners. Moving on to jungle, we have Aladdin. No real surprise there. He has gotten a little bit worse, but the buffs to all the int items kind of compensated and actually kind of brought him back to being really meta. So yeah, you're going to be playing him in the jungle. Now, before, you were going strength-based builds on Aladdin because Heartseeker was super, super strong. You kind of just wanted to build for that since it scales off your total strength. But since they buff int items, and Reaver is also really good now, you're going to be wanting to build more of an int-based build. Really, Bombas is up to you. I like to go Bombas Cudgel on him specifically because he has good auto attack cancels, and that late game upgrade can be very good for 1v1ing and just fighting and everything. So we're going to be rushing Deso, a very good tempo item now because it's very cheap, 2450. You could even rush Divine or both if they have any relevant healing that you need to worry about. I think it's really good. You get 10% pen from this. You're getting 190 int. They're just cheap items, and I think going cheap items in jungle is really, really good because you're going to get kills off those power spikes, and then you'll get even more items from those kills. So it just kind of compounds, and it's very, very good in jungle specifically. It's the one role where you're getting a lot of kills, or you should be getting a lot of kills. So if I do this, something you got to worry about is being mana hungry. Now, people, traditionally speaking, usually go Book of Thoth on Aladdin and just scale. But I think this actually helps him ramp up his early game even better now because it's a lot weaker than it was before. But this gives you a lot of kill potential in the early game. I like to go Doom Orb instead of a Book of Thoth because it gives you that movement speed so you can run around. Very good on Aladdin jungle especially. And then I usually like to go into a Rod Reaver here. And of course we have our 5 items plus our lamp. Late game, you can sell your lamp for something if you really want to. Maybe you need more pen. You could just slam an obsidian there. But because they reintroduced 3K potions back into the game, I usually just like to save my lamp and get a bunch of 3K potions because all of our items scale off of our very hard. Well, not all of our items, but Reaver specifically, kind of what we're building for is scaling off of that, and it's going to make it hit really hard if we just buy more 3K potions. So I think you should go an int-based build on Aladdin now just because Reaver's really strong compared to Heartseeker, although Heartseeker is still very good. Yeah, that's basically what you should be building on Aladdin, in my opinion. But yeah, number 1 jungle. Next up, we have Fenrir. This character, after they changed how his ult worked, was criminally underrated. People were afraid to play him just because he was a little bit wonky feeling on his ult. Now, you can go the traditional Jotuns Hydra's build. I think you can build that in basically every jungler, and you'll be perfectly fine. But the build I'm going to show you today, I think, is a little less built, but I think better. It has a little bit higher upside, and is a little bit easier to play, in my opinion. So, again, kind of whatever Boombas you want. I like to go Boombas Cudgel. The auto attack cancels are too nice to forgo. We're going to be going into a first item, Kin Size. It might be a little bit weird. Now, the reason that you're building this is because, 1, Fenrir is actually pretty good with auto attacks because of his attack speed stem on his 2. It's good at trading. But the main reason is that in Smite 2, Brutalize actually procs auto attack items. So Kin Size is going to proc on every single hit if you're Brutalized. Same with Raggy's Harp, which is what we're going second. Kind of similar to that Amma build. but it's super duper strong on Fenrir because it gives you good auto attack trades, but it also gives you good ability trades because you're just going to be brutalizing people and proccing these at the same time, which is insane. Straight into a Void Shield. This is where we transition the build a little bit into more tankiness. You can even go Void Shield Berserkers because it gives you auto attack speed, which is really nice for this build that we're going with the 2 auto attack items to begin with. And then into a Screeching. I still build this on junglers because it still has 15 cooldown rate and it's still pretty freaking good. It's actually not 15 cooldown rate, I believe. Maybe it is still. Maybe it's 50 magical protections. The text is not up to date on this one, so because you're not silenced for 2 seconds, you're only silenced for 1 second now. So the nerf did help, but I would still build it in jungle, especially on characters like Fenrir jungle or Herc jungle if you're playing that. We go that into a binding, transitioning the build into more of a tank build, but you're still going to be doing a lot of damage with this. And of course, when we get our upgrade, you're going to basically un-1v1able with this build. You do so much damage, and you're also quite tanky and very slippery. You have enough cooldown from Screeching and Boombas that, you know, you'll be jumping around, brutalizing around. And yeah, you'll be feeling pretty good. Like I said, you could go the Jotun's Hydra's route if you really want to. You can't really go wrong with that on most characters in the jungle, but this is the build I would be going on Fenrir right now. And of course, if they don't have a lot of magical damage, you don't really have to worry too much about the Screeching. You could just go a pen item here. You could slam a Brawlers if you need that, a Titan's Bane, and that'll also be feeling pretty good. Kind of depends on what the enemy comp is, but yeah, a lot of games just slam that Screeching, you'll be fine. Anyway, that's Fenrir at number 2. And at number 3, another selection I was a little torn on is between Herc and Hunbats. I'm going to give it to Herc again, just because I think after the nerfs, Hunbats is a little bit worse. He's still good if you go non-aspect Hunbats and just go full damage, or even aspect full damage. Like, both can work still, and they're both good. But I'm going to give it to Herc because I really feel like this character in the jungle plays him, like, he just plays himself. Like, he's too easy, he's too hard to punish, too hard to kill, while also being full damage. So yeah, I go Blink on him, of course, for the same reasons as before, but especially in jungle, give you extra kills. Same thing with Boombas. This is where the build can be a little bit different from Soul Lane. We're going to be building a little bit more full damage. You can just go straight up full damage all the way, and you're going to be doing a lot of damage with it. But it's sort of similar to Fenrir, where you want to build a little bit of damage early game and kind of transition into more of like a hybrid character, just because you're going to be in the thick of things a lot of the time. So you have 2 options. I think you should go Jotuns pretty much every single game on your junglers besides Hunbats and Aladdin, or not Hunbats, Fenrir and Aladdin, funny enough. But basically every other character, Thor, Susanoo, Thanatos, all those characters, I like to go Jotun's Hydras basically all the time. Now you can go Jotun's Hydras on Hercules because auto cancels are good, but this is where we go one of these items that I was talking about from Soul Lane, either Tekka or Pendulum. Both work really well, and they work really well with Jotuns because they're comboing that CDR, and you're going to have really low cooldowns on your 2-1 combos and your ults even. So it's really up to you. Pendulum, if you really like using that active item and are good with it, I'd slam Pendulum there. If you're not good at using active items, just slam a Tekka because that movement speed running around the jungle is going to be really good. Now, this is where we transition the build a little bit, again, into more of a tank or bruiser build. We go Void Shield. I mean, I say tank, but Void Shield's really just a good damage item as well because of the strength and the passive. But same thing, you can go Screeching here if you want. You can go Talisman if you feel like you need that. Really up to you, but then we go Binding and maybe a Titan's Bane for more pen, or another tank item here if we feel like we need it. It's really up to you, but you can't go wrong with this build. Going to be good in basically every single game. You're going to do a lot of damage with it while also being tanky. And again, in that early game, you have so much kill potential, and it's very hard for people to out-trade you as long as you're auto-canceling and, yeah, making use of your CC, and you'll be feeling good. So, yeah, that's Herc at number 3. Like I said, maybe you could throw Hunbats in there. If you were going to play Hunbats, just go that Jotun's Hydra's route. You could go that tank route, again, with, like, Void Shield Binding, or you can just go full damage. I do want to mention, this isn't for Herc specifically, but since I didn't really have any traditional characters like Thor in this top 3, or maybe even Susanoo, the build that I usually go on them, that I think you should go every single game, is, again, you wouldn't do this on Herc, although you could. We go Jotuns straight into Hydras, both cheap items, both really good tempo. I like to go Jotuns over Pendulum, or where is it? Pendulum and Tekka every single game. It's cheaper. The passive, if you just buy this Jotuns and get a gank off and get a kill off of it, you're already getting so much value out of it. It's going to get your ult back even sooner, and it just snowballs really well. So I think you should always go Jotun's Hydras on basically all these traditional characters. If you need anti-heal, this is where you go Brawlers. Good item, has 60 strength. If you don't need anti-heal, then you go Oathsworn Spear here, because it's also kind of cheap, relatively speaking, and the passive is insane for junglers because it gives you flat prot reduction. So let's just assume you don't need Brawlers, even though you need it most games. We go the Oathsworn, then we go with Heartseeker Crusher into a Titan's Bane. Or you can also, if you don't need a ton of pen, you can go Brawlers in that last item. You go this on every single jungler, every traditional jungler, every single game, you're going to be doing well. So I just wanted to throw that in there since we didn't really get to speak about it. But yeah, anyway, let's move on. All right, now let's talk about the mid lane. Number 1, throw Hecate. Very, very strong character. Cannot really ever go wrong picking this character. No CC immunity, so that's the only thing you really have to worry about, and a little bit low mobility, but you get movement speed from your 3. You have the teleportation device from your ult, so it's really not that bad. Most games we're going to be going beads in mid, although Aegis is also something you can consider. So every mid laner should be building Conduit right now. It has 5 more int than Sands of Time, which is, I mean, kind of underrated, but it's also the passive that gives you a ton of extra pressure from clear potential. So yeah, there's 2 routes you can go on mid lane right now. You can go Book of Thoth, Deso, or Divine if you need that, and go that route if you really like building Book of Thoth. It's just a little bit slow right now for my taste, so I like to rush Spear of Deso and Divine into... Powerful. If we need pen right away, they're feeling really tanky, we can go an Obsidian here. If we don't need the pen right away, then we can go a Rod Suhudi or another int item, such as a Gem of Focus, a Soul Gem, kind of up to you. But a lot of games, you just want to have that pen, and you don't really lose that much damage from just rushing something like an Obsidian Shard, and it makes the rest of the build really good because we already have all the pen we need, 5, 5, and then 20 here, so it's already 30. And of course, we're getting Obsidian, or not Obsidian, Rajahidi, but we're getting that anyway. We don't really get this for the pen. It's one of the highest int items in the game. So of course, we're going Reaver. That's still really strong. They did nerf it a little bit, but still going to be our go-to 5th item. You're getting Reaver later on in the build because it scales off how much int you have. So if we get it later on, all these items are adding up to a bunch of int. It's going to hit a lot harder. And then last item, situational in basically every single game. Really up to you. You could go something like, even you can go like a Soul Gem last item. Maybe you want your ult up more often on a character like Akate or anybody really. You could slam a World Stone. Cosmic Core is also pretty good. Good bang for your buck CDR item. So really up to you. I like to mess around, go different items, different games. So it's really up to you. But I like to go Cosmic Core specifically on Hekate because that extra cooldown for spamming our shields in fights actually gets you a bunch of kills and helps people survive. So, and of course, upgrade to Archmages. Can't really do anything there, but yeah, that's basically what we do on Hekate. All right, at number 2, we're going to have Soul with her aspect. Very important aspect, I guess, is that you have to use her aspect for Soul to be worth it in mid lane. They just added this in, and it is very, very good. Not only do you get an extra damaging ability, basically, from your 3 exploding, but the amount of int that you can get on this character is absolutely absurd, and you do a ton of damage with it. And of course, the passive also increases your ability damage, which is very relevant. Increased int, increased ability damage, extra damaging ability. It all adds up to a strong character. Again, we're going Conduit on basically every single mid laner. Now, this is one character I would recommend building Book of Thoth on because it's very exponential on how much extra int you get from her. And we're going to be going Poly on her, which gives you a bunch of mana, 200 mana. It just combos really well with everything that's going on. So we're going Book of Thoth into Poly, into an Obsidian because we need pen at this point. We have no % pen, and there are going to be some tanks sitting in front of us. So we can go up Obsidian here, same thing. It's not really that confusing right now. Rajahidi and Reaver, those are like your 2 strongest items, honestly. We're getting those 4th and 5th, respectively. And then last item, up to you. Need anti-heal, slam a Divine. Maybe you want like a little bit more movement speed, a little bit more survivability. You can go with like a Gem of Focus. Yeah, it's up to you, but a lot of times we're just probably slamming a Divine Ruin. Also, one thing lacking in this build is cooldown. So you could just slam a 6th item Chronos Pendant, and that would also be feeling pretty good, because one problem with Chronos Pen is that it's just not a lot of damage, but you have plenty of damage in this build, especially on a character like Soul. So again, situational last item, up to you. You could even slam a Spear of Deso for the same reason. You'll be feeling pretty good. And we upgrade to Archmage's Gem. And yeah, this build is very, very good. Make sure you're making good use out of your poly procs. Make sure you're hitting your 2 ult combos. You'll one-shot people with that. I've even seen people go blink on Soul, start their Disapparate, blink into like a fight or like a Phoenix Siege, and 2 ult combo, and then have the 3 explode. And they just walk out of the Phoenix, or they walk out of the fight using their Disapparate because they're immune. And they will literally one-shot 1 or 2 people without even them having any counterplay because now Soul's immune. So that's something you can do as well if you want to go blink on her. But, you know, a lot of games you'll just have beads and Aegis on your mid laners. So yeah, that's Soul. Number 2, make sure you're using the aspect. Very important factor there. Okay. Number 3, we have Ra. Clear favorite for me. I think this character, honestly, pretty underrated by a lot of people right now in mid lane. Of course, we're playing him without his aspect. We want that ult scaling. We want that extra heal scaling on the 3. But the reason I think this character is so strong right now and in my top 3 for mid lane is because of his 2. His 2 is insane. The little solar rays that you throw out after clicking it, you can get about 6 or 7 of them off late game. And they each do, with the normal build that I'm about to show you, they each do like 500 damage. And they go through walls. They're absolutely insane. And they proc ability items as well. Keep that in mind. So, that being said, another character I do like to go Book of Thoth on. We're still going to be going Conduit, but we're going to be going Book of Thoth into a Soul Gem. Now, the reason we're going Soul Gem is for what I just mentioned. Your 2 actually procs that. So you're going to be stacking it and procking it very, very easily. I know this is one of the few characters I go Necronomicon on because he's just so safe, and you get prots from your 3 that you kind of make up for the prots that you drop down from with the Necronomicon passive. So that's one character we're going to be going Necro on. And another reason I like to go it on is because a lot of games I like to go a tank item here. This is something Des and I have talked about. Des is a raw main. We go Berserkers, and the reason for this is it's really good bang for your buck, but it's also attack speed on it, which makes you hit more of your 2s, because the more attack speed we have, the more often we're able to click our 2, and we'll get more off. Of course, I'm only at rank 1. The more abilities that you put into it, or the more levels you have in it, the more you're able to get off. And of course, very important for this is you max your 1 into your 2. Don't max your heal second, max your 2, because the sooner you have that at max rank, the sooner you're going to be owning. And you probably would have guessed it, but we're going Ra to Suhidi. Now, you can go Reaver on Ra. It's not as good on him because he doesn't have a lot of guaranteed long-range Reaver proc damage. So that's something to keep in mind. You can go it if you want. Situational here, you can just slam an Obsidian. Ra is not necessarily a character that needs a lot of pen. He gets max health damage on his ult, so he can finish off tanks with that. And, you know, with this tank build, you can kind of get in the middle of a fight and kind of hit people over walls with your 2 and your 1. Something to consider. You don't really need that Obsidian. Really up to you what you want. Again, always pretty situational last item. But yeah, that's Ra. And I think this character is insanely strong. If you play him correctly and make use of your 2, I'm telling you, honestly, I think he's the best mage in the game when it comes to that. So yeah, that's Ra at number 3, and those are our 3 mid laners with their builds. All right, moving on to support. It pains me to say it, but Afro, still number 1. Still a character you should be playing in every game she's left open. She'll be banned a lot, sort of like Aladdin. But the game that she is left open, you better be playing her, and you better know how to play her. So playing her in support. Something you're going to learn about the support builds right now is that you're going to be building Lifebinder in every single game and probably Stampede in every single game. Still very valuable items, especially Lifebinder, probably the best item in the game. Situational first or Relic, up to you, but a lot of times just slamming a shell and peeling for your team is really good, especially at a lot of levels of play. Now, Selflessness and War Flag, that's also up to you. War Flag's more of like a reward for being more aggressive. I would go Selflessness on Afro every single game, however, just because you're more of a peel type character. You're going to be around your team. If you're giving them shields, you're giving them shells, you're giving them heals, you're giving them immunity, you're giving them stampede. Like, it's going to be so hard for people to chew through all that and actually kill your teammates. So, like I said, get used to it. One important factor, I haven't talked about the starters for a lot of characters, but you want to be building your Selflessness plus this tier 1 Olmec Blue. This is 15 HP 5 and 185 HP. It is such good bang for your buck right now. It's so cost effective. You get no potions with this, but that's completely fine. 15 health regen plus the passive on your starter item is plenty sustain. You do not need potions, and this allows you to get your Lifebinder super early in the game. You just need to save up 1,700 gold, and then you can already have one of the best items in the game, if not the best item in the game. So keep that in mind. Start the tier 2 of this. Don't get extra potions. But again, slamming a Lifebinder. Something on Afro specifically that you can consider doing is instead of getting that tier 2 on Afro, you can actually get the tier 2 of Book. Where is it? This Mana Tome, 2 mana regen equals 10 MP5 and 250 max mana. Afro is a very mana-hungry character, so this is very strong to have for her throughout the entire game, even if you don't transform it into anything or build it into anything, even though you can, like a breastplate. That's something you consider if you're struggling with mana problems in your early game on Afro. You could do that. You could go that first item and then go a Lifebinder, or you could go Lifebinder and then go that. It's really up to you. It's really cheap. It's only 500 gold, so it's nothing you have to really overthink that much. But yeah, then we're going to be going that Stampede. Afro, you don't necessarily need Talisman on, but Talisman is a very good support item still for you and your team. Afro has her ult, so she can use that. So it's up to you if you want to slam a Talisman here. Or if they have a lot of healing, you can slam an Ankh. Or you can just go more cooldown here because Afro is really good with cooldown. You could transform this into a breastplate and then get some magical defense when you really need it. Can't really go wrong with this. I'd probably go something like Talisman. On most characters that can proc Binding, you want to be going that, and Afro procs it on her 1 and her 2. So that's really good setup for her team, so you're going to be slamming a Binding there. And then situational last item. You could even go a damage item here if you really wanted to, because Afro is kind of cool and safe like that. And by cool, I don't mean cool because she's not cool. I hate her. But yeah, you could go like a Spirit Robe, you could go Hussars, you could go Mantle, up to you. Can't go wrong with just slamming a Mantle now that it's pretty freaking good. Again, we're filling out our active items. Support is very much based on active items in Smite 2, which is really, really cool. So you want to be making use out of those, and you want to be making use out of the OP ones like Lifebinder and Stampede. So yeah, that's basically it. That's how you build Afro. Number 2, we have Sobek. They have nerfed this character quite a bit, but he's still such a menace in ranked. He's still so self-sufficient. He has so much CC and setup for his team. You just cannot go wrong with picking this character. He's also a good matchup into Afro, who's the best support in the game. He's a good matchup into a lot of immobile characters which are in the game right now. Characters like I talked about before, stuff like Ra, stuff like Soul, they can't immediately get out of his plucks and stuff without CC immunity. So very strong. You can go Sunder on him, gives you a little bit of pressure. You can go Blink on him, gives you a little bit of survivability and more aggressiveness. Really up to you. Just don't go Beads or Aegis, of course, on Sobek support. You could go Shell if you're trying to be more of a peel Sobek and help out your team. I'm just going to slam a Sunder because you can also use this in your ult, and it'll get you a lot of early game kills and executes and stack that up. It's pretty nice. Same thing. Sobek's a little bit more aggressive, so you can slam a War Flag, but you can't go wrong with either. I'm just going to go War Flag for the aggressive option for here. Surprise, surprise, we're building Lifebinder first item. Again, just buy the tier 2. Do not buy potions in the beginning of the game. Get your War Flag, get your tier 2 Lifebinder, and you'll be feeling good. Same thing, Stampede. Talisman's still going to be really good on Sobek, but depending on how much magical damage they have, you can just get a Binding first and then get that Talisman. A lot of games, Ankh is really good. There's a lot of healing in the game, and Sobek's really good at keeping that applied because he's going to be around everybody. He's going to be in the middle of it, in the thick of it. So you can go that. And then again, situational last item. You'll find that a lot of the time, the last item is pretty situational. You know, you could even slam a Screeching. If they have a lot of channeled abilities, you could go Screeching instead of Talisman because you can only have 3 active items. So maybe we could throw that in just to have some variety here. Go Spirit Robe just to be a little bit tankier in the late game. It's really up to you. Sadly, you can't go a 4th active item. Otherwise, you would. You go Hussar's Wings, so you just have perma slow immunity. You know, really up to you. But yeah, you can't really go wrong with these core items that I'm showing you guys. So yeah, that's Sobek at number 2. And coming in at number 3, kind of a toss-up, I think, between Yemoja and Ymir, but I'm just going to go ahead and go with Ymir. I like Ymir a little bit more. I like playing with him a little bit more, and, you know, the less people that play Yemoja, the better. No, I'm not saying that, but it's just, I think that his early game is super, super strong, and it can give you a lot of duo pressure and kill pressure, and you can win games literally just off of that. Say you have like Ymir Medusa, Ymir Cupid, you have so much kill pressure, and you can win your ranked games just off of that. So Blink, I think most of the time on Ymir, just gives you a ton of kill potential and initiation potential. You can literally click 3 and insta-freeze people. You can do it with the ult. Let me reset my cooldowns real quick. Let me hit level 20. You can do it with the ult, chase people out, you know, right before it explodes. You blink after them, gets you some extra kills. Blink's really nice on him and gives you a lot of aggressive options. Now, I'm going to show you guys the build. Same thing, Selflessness, War Flag, up to you. More peel style, more aggressive style for War Flag. If I'm playing Ymir, I'm being aggressive. Same thing though. Surprise, surprise. We're going Lifebinder. We're going Stampede. Talisman or Screeching. Or you don't even have to go Screeching or Talisman here. You could literally just go something like Avenging Blade. You might want to build that earlier though. This is more of an aggressive option. Gives you some auto attack damage and slows in the jungle. So it allows you to maybe invade some jungle, maybe 1v1 the jungler. So that's something you could consider going. But again, we're going Binding. You know, his Stars Wing's actually really strong on this character, so I would consider going that. But can't go wrong with these core items, like I've always said. I keep saying. Ymir's somebody you could go a little bit of damage last, like your last 2 items. Funny enough, something like a Poly and a like Obsidian. This actually wouldn't be that bad. But in general, especially when I'm recommending stuff for people to play. And maybe you give something like a mix. You give something like a Void Stone, give you a little bit more damage, and your team some more damage. But yeah, in general, when I'm recommending stuff, I'm not just going to recommend going damage supports because then people are going to blame me when their damage supports feed. But yeah, that's basically it. And that's the build. Hussar's Wings, like I said, really strong on Ymir specifically because he kind of can get locked down. So if you have perma slow immunity, you'll be feeling pretty good with that. But again, for supports, you cannot go wrong with just Lifebinder, Stampede, and Talisman, and Binding if you have CC, which you should. That's why you'd play support. So yeah, those are our supports. And the last and certainly least role to talk about is ADC. Not certainly least. I've actually been playing a lot of AC lately, and it's fun. Number 1, maybe a bit of a surprise, but I think this character is insane right now. Cupid, with his aspect, you lose damage on your Heart Bomb from choosing the aspect, but the amount of benefit and trading potential you get from choosing the aspect cannot be understated. It is so much better to play with the aspect Cupid right now. Heals, the shields, like, it's just insane. So much utility. Beads, most games on our ADCs. Maybe sometimes we can get Blink or Aegis, but can't really go wrong with beads. There's a lot of CC in this video game. Still going Boomba's Golden Dagger. They just kind of changed Leather Cowl. I wouldn't even call it a buff. I kind of consider it a nerf. And Gilded is possible. You can build that if you'd like that. But you there's still real no downside to building these items. The only downside is less lane clear, but you don't need that in dual lane. You have your support to help you in the early game. And with the executable minions And the fact that it just scales, like once you get your first item online, you're already basically full clearing waves anyway. It does not matter. And this is just so strong late game with the upgrade and so much farm potential because there's so much farm and jungle up that it's just worth it to have this. And then of course the late game structures melt, objectives melt, and that's your job as an ADC is to kill those things. So you should still be going this. Now on Cupid specifically, I like to go Braggies because he has hybrid scaling. It's still a good item. You can either go crit or a proc like a shred build. I think crit's actually pretty good right now, and you can kind of go both as well. We can go an XC and we can go a Kins here into a Deathbringer, and we have both. We're kind of getting a bunch of bang for our buck here because we have pen, we have crit, we have proc items like Kin size and Braggies, and then of course we're gonna be upgrading to this when we're level 20. And yeah, you can't go wrong with this build. You'll be feeling pretty good. Now, something you consider going instead of Kin size, and you would want to go it earlier, maybe second item before your Wind Demon, is Learning Bow. It has anti-heal on it. If they have a lot of healing on the enemy team, this is actually a pretty good item, and the passive is pretty nice. It's only a 20-second cooldown, applies anti-heal, it can crit, it does 130% of your base connect damage. It's actually pretty good, so something you can slam in the build if you're against a lot of healing. Say they have Yomoja support, they have raw mid, they have, you know, just a lot of healing. Consider going Learning. So yeah, that's Cupid. Playing him with his aspect, keep that in mind. Very important. Okay, coming in at number 2. Now, for all these numbers, they're not necessarily in order, but for this one, it definitely is because Cupid actually counters this character, but he's still very, 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 very good, and it's Uller. No surprise here. His build has not changed. Still one-shot some people off of his axes, and yeah, just crazy kill potential. Very, very good. Really good farm potential with the build as well. Just go beads, no big deal. We're going to be going Bumba's Cudgel on Uller specifically because the cooldown late game and the auto attack cancel potential from the passive is very, very good on Uller specifically, an ability-based character with a lot of auto cancels. Makes sense. So, build has not changed. We're going to be going Transcendence. I'll just type this in. Into a Hydras, good auto cancels, like I said before. Into a Tekko. You never catch this character. He will always have this applied. His 2 is always up to apply this, by the way, and his 2 gives him movement speed. So if he has a constant Tekko plus movement speed from his 2, you will never catch this character. You need pen, so we're going to be going Titan's Bane here into a Heartseeker. Again, Heartseeker is still very, very good. So that's where a lot of our damage is going to come from late game. I just saw it, but whatever, I'll just type it in. And you cannot go wrong from here. Your last item, situational. You need anti-heal, Slammer Brawlers. You just want more damage, a little bit of attack speed. Crusher is also good. Has that proc item on the passive. Oathsworn Spear isn't even bad because maybe you're going to get on their carries. Getting that flat pen is really good. You're going to one-shot them. You can't go wrong with this last item. As long as you go to the strength tab and you kind of build off the ability side of things, you'll be fine. And even then, you could build like a Kin size last item and you'd also make some use out of that. But yeah, I'll just throw Crusher in there because that's usually the standard. Build really hasn't changed. This character is still OP. Play him. Play him and build him like that. All right, and coming up, number 3 in our last character that we're going to talk about today. Figured I'd spice it up a little bit, but I truly believe what I'm about to say. I think it is Neith. I think this character is insane right now, one way or the other. I'm going to show you 2 builds that you can play her. Now, if you're playing her with outer aspect, you're going to be more ability based. So you want to be going a build that can make use out of that. What I like to do is just a full int build with that. So pretty much what you're building on a lot of other characters in like the mid lane specifically. You can build this in mid or you can build this in ADC. You just got to keep in mind that you will not have a lot of auto attack damage if you're doing this in ADC, but I still think it's worth it. You're going something like a Book of Thoth into a Deso, into an Obsidian, Rada Tahiti, Reaver, and then last item, situational, like always. You could go Soul Gem. She makes good use out of that. You can proc that pretty often. And yeah, you can go this in ADC or you can go this in mid, but we are talking about ADC specifically. I figured I'd just show you this because I think it is viable and it's good. But what I really think you should be doing on Neith, if I could show you, can I sell my... I don't know if I can sell my conduit, which is sad. But if I could sell my conduit, the starter item I would get is probably Gilded. I actually really like this on Neith specifically. You can go Boombas for the same reasons I talked about before. But I think Neith's Clear is actually good enough where you don't necessarily need it for this in the jungle. Whereas like a Cupid maybe would. So yeah, you can go Gilded. However, make sure if you're going an auto attack build, you are choosing her aspect because this thing is insane. It is so underrated. Neith aspect gives her so much attack speed. If you keep it stacked and ult people, you have 15 seconds early game. I'm talking like one item. You have like 15 seconds of like 3.0 attack speed, which is just unheard of. It's only Anhur can do that with his aspect. So pretty much the same thing from before. You can go Dagger or Frenzy on Neith if you want to. She has some hybrid scaling, so Braggies also isn't bad. Really up to you. If you like making use out of Dagger, go Dagger. If you're cool with Braggies, that's also fine. Of course, it's going to look weird because I couldn't sell my conduit, but again, go Gilded or go your Boombas there. Up to you. But yes, pretty much the same thing as Cupid. We're going to be going Demon Blade into an XC Kin Size, into a Deathbringer, into a Titan's Bane. Same thing. For the same reasons you do on Cupid. You get so much value out of both things here, and you get so much attack speed from Neath Aspect that you're going to be proccing Kin Size and critting so often as long as you're hitting your autos. I mean, let's just look. I'm at this build. I don't have the starter item for it, but let me get level 20 real quick. Let me get reduced cooldowns. I'm just going to stack my passive real quick just to show you guys. All you have to do to stack your passive is just hit your weaves. They don't root anymore. The AoE root doesn't happen, but you get attack speed from it. Okay, I'm now at 2.86. And this point I'm thinking, how many times am I going to be doing this in a team fight? You're not, really. But it lasts for 15 seconds, so you're just going to keep stacking it as the course of a team fight happens, as you poke and everything. And also keep in mind that you instantly stack it with your ult. I'm at 3.25 attack speed. 3.25. I was at 1.8. So much value, and if it ever feels like, you know, let me spawn a god real quick. You know, you're getting low on your passive, or you don't have it at all, like it just ran out, you can literally just ult somebody, and it instantly stacks it all the way up. We're back at 3.25. So yeah, I think Neath is really, really good, and you should be playing her. Kind of a easy hack to win some games right now while people are underplaying her. All right, guys, that's it. Those are 3 gods in every single role that you should be playing with their builds. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, I don't know, maybe you're concerned about something, leave them down below, and I'll try to get back to you, try and answer especially the important questions. And yeah, that's basically it. Hopefully you guys learned a thing or two. Stay safe and healthy as always, guys.